Chapter 1535. There was no justice in this world. The door of adversity was feeling extremely aggrieved. The universal law could be said to be the justice of the universe. Now this family was defying the heavens. Not only did they want to defy the heavens, but they also wanted to kill them. There was no justice in this world. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, "Xiao Heir, don't make it sound so aggrieved. Back then, it was you who wanted to kill the young master without asking the reason. That's why that woman was angry. If it wasn't for that woman and master's strength, the young master would have been killed by you." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. He naturally wouldn't sympathize with the door of adversity. Just like what Xiao Ta said, if it wasn't for Qing'er, he would have been dead. At that time, who would sympathize with him? The door of adversity suddenly said, "He is the source of all misfortune. As long as he doesn't die, this matter will not end." Xiao Ta angrily scolded, "You stupid door. If the young master dies, that sister Tianming will go crazy. Once she goes crazy, forget about you, even master and that swordsman won't be able to stop her. At that time, everyone will die." The door of adversity coldly looked at Xiao Ta. Since ancient times, no one has ever been truly undefeatable. Xiao Ta angrily jumped up, "Idiot." It knew how terrifying that woman was. She was a woman who was even scarier than its master when she went crazy. Under normal circumstances, its master wouldn't act recklessly, but that woman could at any time. Moreover, in that woman's eyes, other than her brother, everyone else was no different from a dead person. Among the three swords, she was the most indifferent to life. Within the tower, the door of adversity slowly closed its eyes. Although it had never come into direct contact with the plain-clothed woman, it knew that she was very strong. If she wasn't strong, the adversity law wouldn't have personally appeared to lure her away. Not only the plain-clothed woman, but the swordsman she met was also very strong. She had never seen such a strong swordsman. However, the Cosmos God Court had no way out. Just like in the secular world, when someone rebelled, did the emperor have a way out? The ministers could surrender, but could the emperor surrender? In space, Yi Xian was silent. From adversity's mouth, he learned many things. He had to admit that he was feeling very complicated at the moment. He suddenly realized that Qing'er had done a lot for him, but Qing'er had never told him about it. Yi Xian raised his head and looked into the depths of the starry sky. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. "Qing'er, can you hear me?" In a certain unknown starry sky, the entire starry sky was blood red, and in the depths of that starry sky, there was an endless bridge. Upon closer inspection, the entire bridge was made of bones. Below the bridge was a sea of blood. A bridge of bones. "Then we will be able to break that broken door." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. This guy was going against the door of disaster. Xiao Ta said again, "Fuse? If you are willing to fuse with me, I can give you many treasures left behind by my master." "Right. An area's blood, the blood left behind after she was beaten, can help you improve your physical body." Blood. Yi Xian was instantly tempted. The little girl with the horn on her head was very terrifying. If he used her blood to rebuild his physical body, he would at least be at the consolidation realm. Or even the eternal realm. Yi Xian was a little excited. Xiao Ta continued to tempt him, "Young master, as long as you agree, I can give you many treasures." Yi Xian shook his head, "Not now." Xiao Ta was a little confused. "Why?" Yi Xian smiled, "Because I want to reach the mortal sword level." It was not easy for him to not rely on external objects. How could he easily use them again? He knew that if he reached the eternal realm and unsealed two of his bloodlines, his combat power would be very terrifying. Forget about everything else, even Wan Jun would not be a match for him. Under those circumstances, eternal realm would be like ants in front of him. However, he really did not want to rely on external objects. At least before reaching the mortal sword level, he would not use any external objects. Xiao Ta sighed softly. Yi Xian smiled, "It's fine. Once I reach the mortal sword level, we will work together to defeat her." Inside the prison pagoda, the door of disaster sneered, "Defeat me? Is there a need for you to be so shameless?" Yi Xian. At this moment, Wan Jun suddenly said, "We're here." Saying so, she stopped. Yi Xian also stopped. He looked into the distance, and at the end of his vision, in the depths of the starry sky, there was a huge abyss. The sword abyss. This sword abyss was really big, and standing in front of it was like an ant standing in front of a bathtub. They were very far away from the sword abyss, but Yi Xian could feel an extremely powerful sword Dao will. This sword Dao will was extremely violent, and it exuded a vicious aura. Moreover, he was slightly surprised because this sword Dao will seemed slightly familiar to him. At this moment, the door of disaster appeared next to Yi Xian. She looked into the distance and frowned. Yi Xian glanced at the door of disaster. Why did you come out? The door of disaster looked coldly at Yi Xian. Are you not convinced? If you are not convinced, fight me. The kind that doesn't call people. Yi Xian, Wanjun suddenly said, Miss, what do you think of this sword Dao Will? The door of disaster looked coldly at the sword abyss and did not speak. Wanjun did not ask any more questions and looked at Yi Xian. Let's go. Yi Xian nodded. The two continued forward, and before long Wanjun's expression gradually became solemn. This sword Dao Will was too powerful. It was like a mountain was pressing down on her, and the further they went, the stronger the pressure. Wanjun was very shocked. She was a peak Eternal Realm expert, but at this moment she was being suppressed by a sword Dao Will, and this sword Dao Will had existed for many years. Just how strong was the owner of this sword Dao Will? As if thinking of something, Wanjun looked at the door of disaster, and the door of disaster seemed to be affected as well, frowning slightly. Just like that, the three of them walked for about 3,000 feet, and they had reached the edge of the sword abyss. At this moment, Wanjun's face was already dripping with cold sweat, and her footsteps felt like they were weighed down by 1,000 kilograms, and every step was extremely strenuous. Moreover, the hostility in the sword Dao Will was becoming more and more terrifying, and if not for her strong will, she would have been corroded by the hostility. The frown on the Misfortune Gate's brows grew deeper and deeper, but there was a peculiar glint in the depths of her eyes. This wisp of sword chi was very strong. If they used it well, they might be able to kill this guy. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said, You seem to be having a hard time. Hearing this, the two women turned to look at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian looked relaxed as if nothing had happened. Wanjun was confused. How is this possible? Yi Xian blinked. I feel fine. Wanjun frowned slightly. Can't you feel that sword Dao Will? Yi Xian said, Yes. Wanjun was shocked. Then why are you still so relaxed? Yi Xian was a little puzzled. It's very easy. Why do you look like you're having a hard time? Just as La Jun was about to speak, Xiao Ta's voice suddenly rang out. Of course young master feels relaxed. Because this sword Will was left behind by the master, how could it dare to be impudent in front of the young master? Young master, I just received a message from this sword Will. It said it wants to go with you. What do you think? Yi Xian blinked. Come with me? Xiao Ta said, Yes, it said it wants to go with you. Please accept it, it can help you fight. Wanjun, at the side, the door of disaster's expression became extremely ugly. As if she couldn't take it anymore, she suddenly swung her hand. Mother Fastrisker. I'm not playing anymore. Boom. In the distance, a part of the starry sky was annihilated. She returned to the prison pagoda. Chapter 1536. Yi Xian ignored the door of disaster and looked into the distance. At that moment they were about to enter the sword abyss. He could feel the sword Dao Will, but unlike Wanjun he did not feel any pressure. On the contrary, he felt a sense of familiarity with the sword Dao Will. Yi Xian's eyes gradually became blank. A strand of sword Dao Will, even after tens of thousands of years, could still exert pressure on a powerhouse like the door of disaster. How terrifying was that? That was just a strand of sword Dao Will. Moreover, it was definitely not intentional by the green-robed man. It might have been left behind by accident. What level had the green-robed man reached? What was a swordsman? This was a swordsman. A strand of sword Dao will not be extinguished even after tens of thousands of years. Yi Xian looked at the sword in his hand and shook his head with a smile. The path of sword Dao was endless. Becoming mortal was probably just the beginning. At this thought, Yi Xian's eyes were no longer blank. He looked into the sword abyss in the distance again and smiled. Let's go, Wanjun. Wanjun nodded. The two of them continued forward. After 2 steps, Yi Xian found that Wanjun was getting more and more strained. He hesitated for a moment and then grabbed Wanjun's hand. With this pull, Wanjun felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her body. The oppressive force of the sword Dao will actually disappeared. Wanjun turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. I didn't mean to take advantage of her. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, Young master, just use your sword Dao or sword domain to envelop Sister Wanjun. Yi Xian's face was expressionless. He said in his heart, Shut up. Xiao Ta jumped up and down. Young master, I understand now. You wanted to hold Sister Wanjun's hand on purpose. You're such a pervert. Yi Xian was speechless. Beside him, Wanjun looked calm because she had heard Xiao Ta's words. Yi Xian smiled. Xiao Ta is naughty and likes to talk nonsense. Don't mind him. Xiao Ta. Is it the tower that's mischievous or the person that's mischievous? Yi Xian blushed with shame and was about to let go of Wan Jun's hand, but Wan Jun grabbed his hand instead. Wan Jun faced Yi Xian. It's just holding hands. It's not like we're sleeping. It's no big deal. Yi Xian was speechless. The two of them no longer bothered about holding hands. Soon they entered the Sword Abyss. This Sword Abyss was originally a world, but this world had been completely erased by a single sword strike. Even the laws of the universe couldn't restore it. The Sword Abyss was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. After entering, the entire abyss made one involuntarily fearful. Yi Xian was fine. He was not afraid of this place at all. After all, the sword will here had already submitted. What was there to be afraid of? The two of them continued forward. As they walked, Huajun's expression became more and more solemn. Chapter 1540. Begging for Death. By the side, Demon Monarch Guyu and Demon Monarch Mount Mang were somewhat embarrassed. This young Master Yi was good at everything, except that he liked to posture. As Yi Xian's voice faded, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Yi Xian. The middle-aged man looked to be in his 30s. He was tall and wore a beast-hide robe. He stood there like a mountain and emitted an invisible pressure. Sky Demon Monarch. The leader of the 10 demon monarchs of the Great Desolate Mountain Range. Sky Demon Monarch looked at Yi Xian. Are you here to seek death? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Sky Demon Monarch sized up Yi Xian. Adversity Constitution. Furthermore, there are 2 bloodline powers suppressed in your body. Yi Xian was somewhat surprised. As expected of the leader of the demon monarchs. He was not simple. Sky Demon Monarch suddenly looked at Guyu and Mount Mang. What makes me even more curious is that the two of them are actually with a human like you. Mount Mang said, in the Nether River Star Field, humans and demons are one family. Guyu, Yi Xian. Sky Demon Monarch looked at Mount Mang and gave him a thumbs up. You're awesome. Mount Mang fell silent. He knew that Sky Demon Monarch looked down on him. But he didn't care. If flattery could give him that much purple aura, he was willing to become a flatterer. Purple aura. The purple aura was enough to change his and Demon Monarch Guyu's fate. This was because the purple aura could allow them to break through their bloodline shackles, allowing them to surpass their ancestors and reach new heights. Such an opportunity was hard to come by in 100,000 years. Furthermore, was flattery shameful? From his point of view, it was not embarrassing. Some demons didn't even have the chance to flatter young Master Yi. At that moment, Sky Demon Monarch looked at Yi Xian. Are you here to challenge me? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Sky Demon Monarch nodded. Then I'll do it. With that said, he suddenly punched out. It was pure physical strength. With a single punch, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. In the face of this terrifying punch, Yi Xian showed no sign of fear. He took a step forward and thrust his sword forward. Sword of life and death. He thrust his sword forward. Boom. The power of Celestial Monster King's punch was shattered. At this moment, Celestial Monster King punched again. Rumble. In front of a human demon, a wave of sword light exploded. Then Yi Xian retreated 1,000 feet, and the Heavenly Demon King also retreated 1,000 feet. After the Celestial Demon King stopped, he looked at his right hand. There was a deep sword mark on his right fist. Seeing this scene, he frowned. He had a corporeal body at the peak of the Eternal Realm. In the entire Great Desolate Mountain Range, his physique was second only to that beast. But now, his body's defenses had been broken by a human in the Tao Attainment Realm.